Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. I'm watching our clock, and it's just the timing is all off. So hopefully we actually get through this show without being disconnected by Blog Talk. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in. You're listening to Sunday Talks with Kellie and Lisa. I am the Kellie portion of that title.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa.
Oh, what we're
Good morning.
About, you're entirely too happy today. No.
I am.
What we're talking about today is setting intentions, goal setting, that kind of stuff. We're at the end of the year. We're in the midst of the holidays, coming up to the start of a brand new year. And I know everybody at this time of year generally talks about setting New Year's resolutions. Just throw that out the window. Don't do that. That puts too much pressure on you, really. New Year's resolution sounds like a good idea in theory, but just saying, I'm going to become a millionaire this year, it doesn't help you. Really, it doesn't help you. Just saying, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to whatever. Unless you have a plan to get there, it's not going to help you. It's going to put more stress on you, and nobody needs more stress. So part of what we're talking about today is how to set goals with an intention and not stress over it. You know, a lot of people this year, it seems, and last year too, but this year I thought people would be feeling much better, and that's not what I've seen. I've seen people are still really sad, really stressed, really upset, and it's a collective consciousness that we've got going on. So what we want to help you do, kind of break away from that and set some goals that you can achieve. What do you think, Lisa? How would you start out?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. And just to say we did it. We survived the massive part of the holidays, and we have one more to go. And this is my favorite time, other than Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween. It's my favorite time because now I get to focus on what I want for my future, but realistically bringing it back to making sure that I'm present and intentional every day to get myself there. So now we had the hope of and joy and whatnot that Christmas is, or that particular week with all of the other holidays and traditions that fall into that same time frame. I just happen to celebrate Christmas. You know, we had that feeling of hope and joy and, you know, just this supposed to have this sense of peace and just the hope that all of that would come to us. And now we have the hope and the excitement of that slate is completely clean, and now we can just put this year behind us, particularly 2021. It was brutal for, you know, in more ways than one. Put that behind us and not necessarily ignore it or deny it, but just start fresh for another year. And so many of us like to start things on a Monday or the first day of the month, or now we have a whole entire year. So this show is great because we get to plan and see and set those goals for ourselves. Not so much a resolution, but a goal, a purpose for what we're going to do in the new year. So I'm really excited that, you know, the bulk of our holiday is over and we have this one more magical moment in time before the new year comes up. So that's why I'm so happy this morning. And caffeine, probably caffeine.
You're generally happy, but, you know, today just seems a little bit extra. And it could be because my mouth. Long story. But, you know, how do you start out setting goals? You know, one of the things when I was working on, I remember way, way, way a long time ago, when I was working on my first business plan, and people were telling me, well, when you build a business plan, you have to set what your intentions are and what your timeline is and where you expect to be in so many months, and then, add some more months, and then add a year, and then 5 years. And at that time, I was very young, and I was thinking, well, who knows where I'm going to be in 5 years?
Right.
It's overwhelming to me. And what I learned from that experience is keep things simple. If you are trying to quit a bad habit, we're going to use smoking as an example because a friend of mine is trying that right now. Set realistic goals. Maybe don't smoke for a day. Or if that's too difficult, and this person's been smoking for 50 years, so imagine that. You try, if you're used to having a cigarette with your morning coffee, try just not doing that. You want to set yourself up for success, and if your goals are too lofty, then you're probably going to set yourself up for failure instead. So just keep that in mind. I know someone who right now is trying to build a new business, and this is a very young person, and I admire what they're trying to do because I've been there. And, they came to me with, the bank tells me I need a business plan. How do I do that? And what I told them was what I learned. Don't make it too lofty. I understand that the bank wants you to show a 5-year plan, but maybe show them a 6-month and a 1-year plan first. And if they can see that you're making progress, and that's the key, whether you're trying to stop smoking, you're trying to invent the next greatest thing, or you're trying to start a business, whatever it is, you have to show that you're making progress, even if it's only to yourself. When I was on a recovering from surgery, trying to get back moving plan several years ago now, I would literally get up and walk around my couch. And that was success for me. I'd had a really horrific injury and surgeries, and it was difficult. But that was my thing. I got up, I walked around the couch. By the end of the week, I got up, I walked around the couch, and then I went outside and I walked somewhere else. It's just steady steps. If you're a person that really struggles with change, make those baby steps. Write them down. What I do, and it's worked for me, it really kind of gets your mind thinking in that direction. Set your intention. Write it down on the top of your page, your top of your paper. Whatever you're trying to do, set your intention. This is what my ultimate goal is. That's your intention. Proclaim it loudly. Write it in glitter pen, whatever it is that makes you think this is important. And then write down your goals on how you're going to get there. There's something magic that happens when you take the time to write it down. It doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish. If you take the time to write it down, that is reinforcing your intention, and it's going to help you. What do you think, Lisa? I know we've talked about writing things down.
Oh, definitely write things down. It takes it out of your head, and it removes the clutter in your mind, and you see it. It's definitely more tangible when it's written, even though I want to make $1 million over the next 5 years. Even though that's not the $1 million, it's tangible, and your brain can start focusing on the things that you need to do in order to get there. You made a very interesting point when talking about particularly smoking, and a little bit of my stories. I've recently quit again, and I've been an on-again, off-again, I was an on-again, off-again smoker for many, many years, and recently I put down cigarettes and have not picked them up since August. Friday, Christmas Eve, I had a mini meltdown. I I definitely lost it, and I had a mini meltdown. I started packing up all of my decorations. I started packing up everything. Like, I was like, I am so done. Everything is going in the trash. I am just absolutely over this. It's too much. It's too stressful. Everything else that was going on in life just kind of compounded to a very insignificant moment, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it caused me, I walked away, went into my bathroom, ugly cried, and just let out all of the things that were kind of weighing on me that had nothing to do with the fact that my apartment wasn't decorated for Christmas on Christmas Eve at this point, but just all of the things that I was letting stand in the way of something that was so important to me. Christmas is the thing for me. I want to be Mrs. Claus. Like, this is the thing for me. And I was letting all of these other things stand in the way. So I went into the bathroom. I had my mini breakdown. It was an ugly cry. It was shouting out the things that were driving me crazy. And then I walked back into my living room. I have an open floor plan, so my living room, kitchen, and dining room all look into each other. And my family saw that something was wrong, and they asked if they could do anything, and I said, I just need you to leave me alone. I started decorating. I said, forget that. This is my thing. This is what I love the most out of the whole entire year, is being able to put up all of my jolly. And so I started decorating. My family came together, gave me a big group hug, and said, we are a team. We are here for you. I'm going to cry. This is about to make me cry again. They said, we are a team. We're here for you. You don't have to do it alone. What can we do for you? And I just started crying. And I said, I just want my house decorated for Christmas. And they stepped in and did a couple of things while I was able to get Christmas decorations, not a whole lot, just something very simple, but it was wonderful. It was a wonderful moment, and now I can reflect and say I did minimalism this year. I don't like it. It's not for me. Next year I'm not going to let things stand in the way. All of that comes together to say that sometimes we have those moments, and it's okay, get back on the horse. Don't stay on the ground. For the smoking, I put down that's what it was. I looked at my daughter and said, I'm about to tell you to go to the store and get me some cigarettes. I haven't had a cigarette since August. I have somehow avoided not smoking. But Friday, I was ready to throw all of it out the window because it was just too much. But I didn't. I think I ate something instead, and I kept going. For me, part of the not smoking, I changed the things that happened around smoking. I would go and sit on my balcony for hours, and I would just smoke and play a game or have a conversation and smoke. So I stopped going onto my balcony. I broke that initial habit that went along with the habit. And when I wanted a cigarette, I found something else to occupy my time. Right. It was accidental that I quit smoking, but it did just happen. And, every day is a battle, but I'm changing the little things that go along with that. And I'm picking up a different habit or a different scenario, which leads to my intentions, because intentions are a purpose. It's something that gives you purpose or to work towards a purpose. So I have intentions for the new year. My intention is to continue my journey of being healthier and to get healthier even in 2022. I intend to journal more, and I intend to read a couple of books a month as opposed to buying them and letting them collect on my nightstand and only flip through them haphazardly, those types of things. So when you're looking at fixing a habit, don't resolve to do it. That just says, that one day it's going to be important enough. You're going to find the solution, which is great to find the solution. But if you set the intention, you're already putting that, trying to find the solution into more, that there's more of a momentum behind that. So it's intentions for me all the way.
Right. Well, and one of the things, I think people start out with the best intentions. They sit there, they will write it down, they'll look at it, they'll meditate on it, and then something happens, like you were talking about, and they go right back to whatever they were trying to overcome. So what you did is you distracted yourself, and, it may have been an accidental stop smoking, but it still stopped. So I think we need to congratulate ourselves more than we do. It's I've seen so many people when I was doing a lot of coaching that we would sit down and we would talk about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to accomplish it and how it was going to fit into their existing life. And they would still come back to me and say, okay, well, I need to revisit this because it doesn't really fit into my existing life. And that's what we need to pay more attention to. When you're setting your intention, when you're writing out your goals, make sure it fits into your life as it is now. If you start with your goals too big, it's going to derail you. And I always say that, and people always look at me and go, yeah, I get it. And then they don't really get it. So,
right.
Really, really do some soul searching when you're talking about setting intentions for the future. You need to really get in touch with yourself and just, give yourself the support that you need. No one else is going to support you in you reaching your goals. And that brings up something else. Maybe if you are surrounded by people who don't really support you in general, maybe don't share your goals with them at first. Maybe wait until you get a couple of days or weeks under your belt and then tell them what you're doing. What can happen, and it happened to me, is many years ago I set my intention, I'm going to lose some weight. I gained a lot of weight. I was told I was dying. I was like, all right, I'm eating cake. And, I gained a lot of weight, and seriously, I'm still here, really. I am, promise. And when I set that intention to change my eating habit and to move more and to get healthy again, the person closest to me said, yeah, that'll never happen. So if you're in that situation where you're not sure that people are going to support you, don't tell them. Don't tell them. Wait until you've got a few days, a few weeks behind you, when you've built up your own confidence in your abilities. And then you can tell everybody, look what I'm doing. Look, it's working. It sounds really sad to think that people around you would not be supportive, but honestly, many people don't understand how to be. So you sound like you've never had that experience.
Oh, I have had that experience many times over. In fact, it's so interesting that you brought that point up of the person that you told and said, that's never going to happen. I tend to be the type of person who can be molded. So if you tell me, Lisa, you'll never be such and such, there are times where I'm going to say, oh, you know what, you're right, I'll never be good at that, or I'll never be able to do that. Unless you cut yourself out of my life completely, and then I'm like, I'm going to show you, and then I go on this tirade of graduating college and being the, all these things that you said that I wasn't going to be, but now you're no longer in my life, right? So now I'm showing you. But when you're in my life, I tend to mold myself to what people want me to be for them. There was a couple of times that I was married, and one of the times I thought that I needed to be a homemaker and a stay-at-home mom, and I did what I thought was right by him, and turns out, in losing myself, I also lost him. So
right.
That's a whole other show. But, that if you don't have people in your life that are going to support you, like you were saying, Kellie, find people that will. And I'm not saying cut everybody out of your life. I'm not saying get rid of those people, because they're in your life for a reason. There's a reason that they're there. There's a lesson. There's an experience that you need to have. But we have so much access to so many people across the world. If you're looking to get fit, go to a gym that only costs you $10 a month. Meet people there. Heck, talk to the employees every day when you walk in. Just to have somebody in your corner. You say, hey, look, I'm 5 pounds lighter this week. They will cheer you on. It's their job. They are getting paid for that. Find a club or a group on Facebook if you don't want to meet somebody in person. Eventbrite and Meetup. Those are 2 websites that have, different types of events that are going on in your area. Maybe there's a fitness club in one of them. Maybe there's a group of people who are like, hey, we're just going to meet up here and celebrate our wins. Or, hey, we're having a free boot camp here. Meet us at such and such a date. There is a circle that does that. Every morning they'll be at different locations. Find them. They will be in your corner if your family can't. And sometimes your family can't be in your corner because they've seen you say, this is particular for me, I'm not calling out anybody else, but sometimes we need to hear our own bullshit, right? Sometimes your family is not going to be in your corner because you're like the wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm going to do this, and you don't. And then you go on to something else, and you don't do that. And you don't finish this, and you don't do that. And you just keep jumping all over the place. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but there are people who will support you and build you up. You need to find those people. We have so much access to people, to like-minded people, to people who are going through the same thing that we're going through. I'm on an app. I don't use it as much anymore, but it's called I Am Sober, and it is helping people cut addiction to anything. It can be cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, food. There's even some sex stuff in there, too, for sex addicts. There's all kinds of habits that you can break, and you meet like-minded people in this community through posts, and you can, message and stuff like that. And that there's an accountability factor in that particular app as well, where you check in every day and you pledge to not do the next thing. You say, this day I'm not going to eat sugar. This day I'm not going to drink my soda, or whatever the case may be. Today I'm still going to keep out my white bread, or whatever the case may be. And you pledge that, and then you see this countdown, and you see these milestones. There's so many things out there that we can access that can help propel us forward.
Right. And one of the things, you mentioned all kinds of addictions, and wow. Apparently I have developed an addiction to coffee. But one of the things that we can become addicted to is, crappy thinking. Call it thinking.
Yes.
It's you can become accustomed to finding the bad in everything. There are so many people who are addicted to thinking negatively. And
that is so true. I follow a group that focuses on that. Go ahead.
No, it's really interesting to me how through coaching and through even doing readings recently, I find that so many people they set their intentions. They write down their goals, and then they themselves say, oh, this will never happen. This looks too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And don't do that to yourself. The first step of recognizing anything that needs to be changed is just look at it. Do some soul searching, literally, and really look at yourself. if you're one of those people, and I was too, who has people around you that are not supportive, and that can really undermine you. That can make you stop being supportive for yourself. So, pay attention to that. Learn to pay attention to your thoughts. That's the first step in changing. Learn to pay attention to what you're thinking. Learn to pay attention to what you do. A lot of us live our lives pretty much on autopilot. And, if you're in the habit of every morning, you wake up, you get coffee, you smoke a cigarette, you're stressing about work, you're driving to work, and you get angry about traffic. Look at yourself and what you're doing. It isn't always about other people not being supportive. Sometimes it's about us not being supportive to ourselves.
Very true.
So, recognize that anything can become an addiction. Literally anything.
That is so true.
Yeah.
I follow a thought process. You were cutting out. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I wanted to know about the group. That's a Facebook group, because I think people can.
It is a Facebook group.
Yeah, I think people can all use it.
I'll tell you about this group. It's fabulous, but I'm not sure what we're allowed to say on Blog Talk. I don't want us to get too censored or whatnot. Right. The group is called Existential Kink, and it is actually based off of a book called Existential Kink by Rhonda. She's a PhD. I cannot remember her last name. No, excuse me, Caroline. I'll look it up in just a moment because I want to make sure I credit her properly. She has a Facebook group. So if you read her book, it really looks at that baggage that you continue to carry around. And it's juicy. It's a completely different thought process on, what we carry with us. And it talks about how we actually get pleasure and enjoy even the bad stuff.
Right.
It's a little hard to process at first because it's like, there's no way that I like this so much. But then when you take this approach and you start looking at some of the things, it is a lot easier to carry that with you. And when you can admit and look at it, with that that's part of my healing of the things that I'm healing from. And there's a group, and we get in there and we talk about what it is that we've discovered in our own journey. This book is not for everyone. There is a lot of cussing. There is a lot of sexual type of material in it. But it is the dark side of our existence, and it looks at the dark side as there is no good and bad, there just is. And so when you look at the dark side and you can process it in a different way, it might be what you need to help, propel you forward. But the book is called Existential Kink. There is a Facebook group. It's free. You don't have to have her book. It would be a lot easier to follow everyone in the group if you did, if you did actually read the book. Caroline Elliott, PhD. It's called Existential Kink, Unmask Your Shadow and Embrace Your Power. I'm listening to it on audio. I actually want to purchase the book, and because there's a workbook. There's like, I think 10 steps in there. And when I'm driving down the road, it's really hard for me to process those steps and write things out and everything, that goes along with the healing part of your journey. I love audiobooks, but there are some of them that you just cannot do when you're driving down the road. So it's great to have it as a backup to listen. I do consider that part of my reading journey as well, but I've referenced this particular book and concept many times already in our show. I just wasn't sure if I could throw it out there, but it is something that I have been reading, and I'm going to go back and reread it because it has done wonders for accepting, allowing, and being okay with how we differentiate the things that are bad or how we label things called bad. And yeah, so.
I know sometimes we label things as bad initially, And then later on, we realize that they were really a good thing that happened. So be careful when you're deciding what's bad and what's good. Sometimes what you think is good turns out to be the worst thing ever. And
right.
some things that you think are the worst thing ever turn out to be really a great thing that happened. So, pay attention to how you're feeling about things that happen. Interesting. They say time heals all wounds, and I don't know that time really heals all wounds, but I think time makes it easier for us to live with what happened and examine it and look at it as what good can I find in this. Even when someone close to you is not supportive of what you're trying to do, look at it, what good can you find in that? You can find the good that it made you more steadfast in your goals. You can find that it makes you realize maybe this person doesn't really belong in your life, or maybe they don't need to be as close to you as they are. In my experience, those people who are closest to us can do the most damage. And sometimes we don't realize what's happening until after it's happened, and then we beat ourselves up. So don't do that to yourself. Just don't. One of the things when we're talking about goals and maybe waiting to tell people what we're doing, you have to make sure that if you're not going to tell someone, and I don't know why I feel like bringing this up now, it seems like someone needs to hear it, make sure you keep telling yourself what you're doing, because sometimes we reach for support from other people before we support ourselves. And when you're trying to make any kind of a change, you need to find that support within yourself first. And that's what I mean by maybe not telling everybody initially. You need to build up the confidence inside yourself, and you need to learn how to support yourself. Really, when you're in the process of making a change and you have a hard day or a hard moment or a hard week, whatever it is, ask yourself, what would make me feel supported right now? And whenever that is, give it to yourself. Mm-hmm. I know a young person who they have been taught in a school that they go to, which is a fabulous school. But anyway, that when you're having a hard time, when you're having a hard moment in school or at work or wherever in life you are, just ask someone for a hug. So what they do in this classroom is if one of the kids is having a hard time, they will tell the teacher, I'm having a hard time, I need a hug. Or just, I need a hug. And you can hug yourself. It's possible you can. But how much more wonderful would life be if we were all taught as children that when you have a bad day, you need a hug. But what the teacher has said is it makes all the difference. Ultimately, her goal for this class is to get these children to learn. And if something as simple as hugging a child changes their entire demeanor and puts them back in a state of, okay, I can learn this. It isn't too hard. I am capable. Then, give them a hug. But whatever it is you need, give that to yourself. And no, I'm not talking about a double shot of whiskey. No, that's not what we're talking about. And again, somebody just whispered in my ear, I should say that. But really support yourself. If you find that listening to music changes your mood, do that when you have a hard moment. if you find going for a walk or petting a dog or playing with a cat or whatever it is, do that to support yourself. And when you feel supported within yourself, then maybe it's safe to tell other people around you what you're doing. But don't undermine yourself first. Thoughts about that?
I wanted to build on that. Yeah, I do want to build on that. One thing that I've noticed, we focus on the big picture, and it's overwhelming. Yep. And it's like, I'm never going to get there because you haven't even gotten to the first step, or, you haven't even lifted your leg to make it to the first step. For example, I know that there's a certain amount of money that I want to start bringing in every year. I've been saying this for the last several years. I still haven't started bringing in that particular amount of money. Why? Because I haven't taken the action to even bring in like 1% of the amount of money that I want to bring in. So I'm not ever going to get to that final step because I'm so focused on that, and it's in my head, and it's swirling around, and it's taking up way too much space. And sometimes we give our own self space in our head for free. There's that saying, don't let people in, don't let people take up headspace that's, don't let them be there rent-free. And sometimes we are our own worst enemy when it comes to taking up the space in our heads. So that big picture, you want to see that. You want to see, okay, I want to make $100,000 a year. I want to lose 50 pounds. I want to change careers and become this or become that. And that's a great way let's look at the career aspect. If you want to become a doctor, but you've been in the food industry, and I'm not knocking the food industry, I love it, by the way, you have to go to school. You have to take the basic 4-year degree program, then you go into medical school. Once you take the test to even get into medical school, and once you pass all of the acceptance stages of being accepted into that particular medical school, use that same analogy when it comes to whatever goal it is that you have for yourself. You have to take those steps in order to get there. And people do it, in their careers and things along those lines. The only difference that separates the people who have lost the 50 pounds and have maintained it, or who are making $100,000 a year and continue to make $100,000 a year, they're taking action, whereas when you set your intentions and you leave them in your head rent-free and they just take up all this space and all this clutter and they cause anxiety and stress and worry and they hinder you and they keep you from moving forward, the only difference is that action. So don't focus on the big picture because, oh, my God, I need to lose 50 pounds can be overwhelming. Start small. Drink a gallon of water a day and then incorporate something else. Or if you need to be an all-in kind of person, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis because that's still focusing on that big picture and it's not taking any action. And year after year after year, if you keep saying the same thing, you need to evaluate what that action is that what you haven't done to actually propel yourself forward.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why I said baby steps, because we do tend, when we set our intentions, to make it really, really, really big. And when you set your goals for that intention, make sure you're moving forward, but don't overwhelm yourself. It's something that we all tend to do to ourselves. When you really are moving forward, you can look at yourself, look how far you've come. When you do that, congratulate yourself. It doesn't have to be go out and undo everything you just did because you made a step. And I've seen people do that. Oh, I lost 10 pounds. I'm going to go eat a cake.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that.
Yep.
I've seen that happen. But congratulate yourself. Even if it's just looking in the mirror and high-fiving yourself. Something simple to acknowledge that you are making progress. It's really important to make that. When you're making progress, congratulate yourself.
Yep. And you can shout it out to the world. And if your supporters don't support you, and if you're afraid to shout it out because, well, all these people talk all this time about how people overshare and you know, they're just looking for attention and whatnot. Who cares? Do it anyway. Be proud and own your accomplishments, for sure.
And, you know, this time of year, people I've spoken with, at least this year, have talked about more than financial stuff. People are talking about, how do I improve my health? How am I going to be happier than I've been? How can I do things that benefit someone else? And I love that. I am encouraged by that. But the same principles, you know, kind of go along with that too. If you're trying to improve your health, congratulate yourself when you eat a salad. I mean, something simple. Well, maybe not me because I pretty much live on salads. But if you're not accustomed to eating healthy, you know, congratulate yourself when you have a healthy meal. Congratulate yourself when you skip the, you know, extra dessert or the cocktail or whatever it is that is your habit. Those little bitty victories really do add up. And when you're going along, yeah, you know, it goes faster than you would have thought. You know, you start really, you know, it's like the old thing when if you think of a particular car and you go for a drive, you're going to see that car everywhere. It's the same thing. We are self-actualizing beings. We really are. So if you're thinking about becoming healthier and you train your brain to think of yourself in maybe a different way than you're used to, it's going to work. But it takes some time, and it takes baby steps, and it takes being mindful of what you're doing and how you're thinking, so that when you have that first thought that's not supportive of what you're doing, you can nip it in the bud, and that way you won't go down that downward spiral that so many people go down. Just, you know, it's not about all love and light. We all have some darkness. We all have some negativity in us.
Yep.
We just need to learn to acknowledge it, see it. I see you, negative thought. You're not going to get me this time. And move on. And if it helps you to talk to yourself like that, by all means do it. Honestly, I found talking to myself, my dog looked at me funny, but, you know, talking to myself when I'm trying to make changes really, really does help. You know, find what works for you. Find what helps you. Ask yourself, what do I need? And know that you are perfect exactly as you are. You know, everybody wants to be and everybody wants to be their best selves, which I hate that phrase. But anyway, find out what that is for you. And you're going to find, if you're honest with yourself, it's going to be very different than what society says. You know, so many people equate, I'm becoming my best self with I'm making more money. It's not about money. Yeah, we all need money to live. We live in a very money-oriented society. But it's not all about the money. You can set a goal to make more money, but don't let that be your end all. Make sure you know why you want to make that money. A lot of times, the reason things fall apart and we don't make the money we want to make is because that's not truly our heart goal. It's not our soul goal. It's just something we think we want. So be honest with yourself. If you're setting a goal to make more money, why? Why do you want it? Why is that important? If it's not important to you, you're not going to get there. So make sure when we're setting goals and we're setting intentions, we are honest with ourselves. You know, I've set money goals in the past, and I looked at, why did I want that money? Oh, yeah, this is why. And if you find your why and it's important enough to you, you're going to get there. But make sure you pick goals that are really, truly important. Maybe your goal, instead of I want to become a millionaire, is I want to pay off all my bills and live debt-free. Maybe that's your ultimate goal. And if that's your ultimate goal, you're going to find ways to find that extra money. Don't set a goal to have something just for the sake of having it. Make sure it matters to you. So I think that's about all I have to say on that subject.
I think that was beautiful. I just want to add to it that this week's assignment is to take 10 minutes to journal, reflect on this past year, write down all the good that happened. There is good in this past year. Write down all the good that happened and take stock in what you want to be different next year. I hate to say to change, but just tweak. What do you want to lose 5 more pounds, like something. Write down those big goals. As Kellie said, find out the why behind those goals. They need to be specific, as specific as possible. And that's just it this week. Write down, those goals that you want and be very specific and take time to reflect. It takes 15 minutes a day to be able to do all of that. And we will see you next week in a brand new year, 2022. So happy New Year, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Kellie?
Thank you very much for listening. Please like and share the show. We don't ask you to do that often enough, but please do that. And have a safe and happy New Year. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.